Greetings, gents, and welcome to episode 11 of Econoclasm. Today I'm going to be talking about the acquittal of Daniel Penny up in New York. Apparently the justice system isn't completely hopeless, which I have said a lot. There's plenty of people I'll see online and police videos. They'll say, oh, just doesn't matter if, it's an unjustified arrest. Just let yourself get arrested and go take your day in court. Because apparently, and this is always coming from conservatives usually, because, one of the few good things about liberals is they actually don't like cops. But conservatives will say, it doesn't matter if it's an unjustified arrest, do what the cop says, let him arrest you and take your day in court. Because apparently being a freedom-loving American means just let yourself get arrested and imprisoned against your will for something that you shouldn't be there for. That's freedom to a conservative, apparently. But remember, conservatives tend to prefer cops to their believed notion of freedom. Most of their policies don't support it, but I've been saying for a while you can't trust the justice system because it just works hand in hand with the police and the politicians to just enforce the same evil, unconstitutional, immoral laws. And for the most part, that still is true. Just because you have a couple cases where the right outcome happens doesn't mean you're guaranteed. There's plenty of people in prison right now who shouldn't be. Many of the January 6th people that walked around a building who, Trump's saying he's going to pardon if he gets in, but he didn't pardon before he left last time. So, GG on that one, Trumpy. But anyway, in this situation, the Justice system, actually gets it right. And Daniel Penny has been acquitted and will not go to jail for doing the right thing. Which is pretty good news for society as a whole. It's still legal to defend yourself, defend others, protect innocent people from violent criminals who are drugged up and shouting on the train that they're going to kill people. Apparently, that's just a normal thing in New York City that people have to deal with, which is ridiculous. But, it's worth it to have crappy pizza and some, I don't know, what else do people even like in New York City? That's so great about living there, that it's okay to deal with, violent, screaming, threatening homeless people all the time. I don't know. But most normal people, and when I say normal, I usually mean not liberal, because they think it's perfectly okay. But most normal people don't enjoy being around that. And it's good that someone took a stand and stopped a crazy person who was a threat to everyone. There's obviously, we don't know for a fact if he would have done anything. The dude he offed, Jordan Neely. Now, based off his past history, there's good evidence to believe he was a threat. He's been arrested 42 times. Now, granted, I don't know what all 42 of those arrests are. The jumping subway turnstiles, I don't really care. It's a public system. Screw over public enterprises as much as you can. I've got no problem with it. But 3 separate assaults against women on the subway. And he, was allowed to walk the streets after committing 3 assaults. Because that's one instance where the justice system does fail. One of the many. Where good people who don't belong in jail and who don't do anything morally wrong end up in jail, and bad people who shouldn't be on the streets get let go because of all these liberal prosecutors and DAs who decide, oh, well, violent criminals who are a threat to society, they deserve 586 chances. But if you go to church during COVID or walk around a public building and scare some pedophiles, or have a gun when the government says you shouldn't, no, those are evil people who deserve to be in prison. So, like I said, the justice system sucks, especially in major cities. And that's why Jordan Neely was walking around and able to be threatening people on the subway, where he had already attacked 3 people before, 3 women. And as much as the whole gender thing goes, yes, it is slightly worse to attack a woman than a man. That's just how the world is. That's how basic human biology is. You're a worse person for randomly punching a woman than you are for randomly punching a man. But it was the failure of the justice system that allowed Jordan Neely to be walking around the streets of New York City threatening people. And there was very good reason to believe, maybe not to Daniel Penny, I don't think he knew Jordan Neely's history, but he didn't know that he hadn't attacked people. He didn't know that he wasn't going to. Penny had no idea if this guy was serious or not. All he was just in this situation. But for people criticizing, Daniel Penny for his actions, you have to realize, no, Jordan Neely very likely was going to hurt somebody. Maybe not that day, but at some point he probably was going to. You don't really randomly attack 3 people and then decide, okay, now I'm a good person, I'm never going to hurt someone else again. So, it's kind of okay. I don't have a... Should he have died? Maybe not. But is it the greatest tragedy in the world that he doesn't get to assault more people? No, that's not... No. And people will say, well, he should have gotten help, not killed. Well, why didn't they help him any of the times they got arrested him? Why didn't any of these, celebrities, politicians coming out to support him, why don't they have charities and funding to support people with mental health issues instead of letting them just wander the streets and hurting people? It's not the job of all of society to say, well, he should be getting help, so we're going to let him operate with impunity because society should be set up better. So let's all risk our personal safety until we set up a perfect system where mental health is properly treated, and then anyone who's screaming on the subway can be considered a legitimate threat, and then we can defend ourselves. No, that's bullshit. People have a right to defend themselves. And it's a tragedy that Jordan Neely died because he didn't deserve it. That didn't need to happen. If those people he assaulted didn't deserve to be assaulted, they didn't have to deal with that, but they did. And how do we know his next time, say on that train with Daniel Penny, if Penny had just, done what apparently everyone wanted him to do and just ignore the screaming crazy man? How do we know that wasn't going to be the time when he does kill somebody? Or, maybe he went on a little spree and killed multiple people. Or if, nothing happens, he is off the train, maybe another time he kills somebody who doesn't deserve it. Daniel Penny, for all we know, could be a lifesaver. Oh, but he killed, so he's not. Well, if you kill someone who's going to kill an innocent person for no good reason, no, you've done a good thing. And this goes back to the idea that liberals care more about violent criminals than they do about innocent people. They've got no problem that he attacked 3 people. You know, they're all talking him up as like, oh, he's a good guy, he just had some problems. But the people attacked, they just have to deal with it. That's just part of their life that they have to deal with because this good guy needed to be allowed to continue to terrorize people. Liberals always want people to have sympathy for the violent, crazy criminals who hurt innocent people. And they never want you to have sympathy for the innocent people who get hurt by those criminals. I don't know how the fuck you make that decision. That's insane to me. But that's what they do. And there's a decent chance that it's just racially based. Because, of course, everyone ran away with race. Oh, a white guy killed a black guy. Not a good person stopped a violent person from being violent. No, they have to make it about race, and that's probably why liberals tend to care about violent criminals instead of innocent people, because statistically, blacks make up the majority of violent crime. That's not a racist statement. That is just statistical fact. And for some reason, whites are evil and non-whites are great. So, since the non-whites are overwhelmingly the violent criminals, then they're just going to defend violent criminals just as an offshoot of that. I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but you know, I hear all the time as a libertarian, if you hate the government, go move to Somalia. But if you hate white people so much, get out of the white countries, go move to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You go move to Somalia. Go move to Mexico, Venezuela. If you hate white people so much, leave the white countries. But no, whites have built tremendous civilizations for all of history, the greatest civilizations of all history, and so these people who think whites are evil are going to sit there and reap the benefits of white society. But they'll criticize someone on the basis purely of race and say, oh, well, if a white man kills a black guy who's being violent, that's evil and racist because I guess whites don't get to benefit from the positive aspects of the society they built where people can be relatively safe against these violent criminals. And it all comes back to either, you know, people like Al Sharpton who want to defend his people. You know, he's always defending the criminals, the violent ones, and self-hating whites who, for some reason, see whites as evil. If you're white and you think whites are so evil, why are you still alive? You know, you may claim to be one of the good ones, but these self-hating whites think that they're still inherently racist because they're white, and all these bad things just because of their white skin. But, you know, race is also only skin deep. You know, constant cognitive dissonance. 1984 level double think, whatever, but if white people are so evil to you self-hating white liberals, why haven't you removed an extra white from the world? If you're so evil, you can help solve the problem, but I don't see them taking care of that, so yeah, it's kind of hypocritical, if you ask me. Now, I'm not saying anyone should, you know, take their own lives, but just, you know, an interesting note in hypocrisy. But, thankfully, the New York jury somehow acquitted Daniel Penny. which is just a fantastic thing for society as a whole. Self-defense is still legal. Protecting others is still legal. Being a good Samaritan is still legal. To some degree. Duty to retreat states is an insane thing, but that's its own thing. But I know a lot of people who were saying, with Daniel Penny, getting arrested and potentially being found guilty and sentenced, they were saying, okay, fine. No more defending other people. If I see anyone in danger, I'm letting them get hurt, because it's just going to end up poorly for me. You go out, defend someone against a violent threat, and then you end up in prison because you can't defend other people. A lot of people were trending in the direction of let people get hurt, because that's what the law incentivizes you to do. Basically says you can't defend others. And it's interesting to see. There's still some situations where it seems illogical to defend someone just based off of how people react. Like, there's plenty of instances of women getting, defended from a violent criminal or have their life saved from, even not a criminal situation, just like drowning or needing CPR, and they always flip and criticize the guy who saved them. How dare you hurt that man, or I'm suing you for sexual harassment for touching me against my will. Okay, bitch, drown, suffocate. But that's its own thing. But thankfully, there is still at least somewhat a legal incentive to protect other people. And thankfully, Daniel Penny is free for defending all the other passengers on the subway. Also find it interesting how the champions of women, supposedly, on the left, and the only thing they really do to champion women is let them murder their own babies. Interesting. But I don't know how that's championing a woman, because that's still 50% of abortions. Statistically are against women. It's safe to assume babies have a 50-50 gender split, because there are only two genders. And you can't change it, so pretty close at least to 50% of abortions kill a woman, because that baby's a female. But the champion woman. But the champion of woman, self-entitled, on the left, really seem to hate women with their policies. Jordan Neely is a tragic figure after he attacked 3 women unnecessarily. The warrior hero of the left, George Floyd, robbed a pregnant woman by pointing a gun at her belly. But, put up murals and statues of him and you're the champion of women. The left really does just suck. I don't know what their goal is. It probably is just, evil. It's the only logical explanation for it. Most of the policies hurt women, gun control. Women can't defend themselves against men who are biologically, on average, stronger. They keep these felons out on the... I don't know if Jordan Neely was a felon. If you assault someone, I'm pretty sure that's a felony just because he wasn't convicted, or I think he was at some point, but somehow he's back on the street. But, violent people who assault women, they get that back on the street because, we need to give them another chance. Flooding the country with illegals, which we're told is a good thing. And people like Lincoln Riley, I don't know exactly what her first name is. I'm shit at remembering names. Those women get to die, so, some third world criminal can come in and just get a ton of free shit. I don't know what the supposed benefit there is. I know what it probably is. But that's apparently a conspiracy theory, even though they're all saying, yes, it's happening and it's actually a good thing. But I don't have to mention what it is. It's fairly obvious. You understand my illusions, but... And with the whole... Did I mention this in like 2 episodes ago? And with like the trans thing, oh, if a man puts on a dress or just identifies as a woman, let him into your bathrooms and locker rooms and all your private spaces, and oh no, what's happening? Women are getting assaulted, raped, flashed by men or women with dicks, because that's a thing in 2024 apparently. Sure. But this situation is just further proof that the left doesn't actually give a shit about women. I don't know. Aside from, letting them murder their own children, which is the hot woman's issue. That's what a lot of them seem to care about. But thankfully, someone who actually gives a shit about women, probably, Daniel Penny, ended the streak of a violent man attacking women. He's done more for women in his lifetime than any of these liberal politicians, any of these liberal protesters, activists. So if you're really pro-woman, you ought to be a big fan of Daniel Penny. Give him a round of applause for actually helping women. I think that's going to be it for today. Didn't want to not talk about this. Didn't want to. Just didn't seem like super pertinent to put on an episode right after the acquittal. Quick note about Syria. Again, things are going to get worse. There's basically a member of Al-Qaeda running the country now, so great job there. I don't want to ever hear about terror wars or fighting terrorism ever again from someone who supports U.S. foreign policy, because we just put an Al-Qaeda member in power in Syria because it helps Israel. Think about that. A member of Al-Qaeda leading Syria now helps Israel. What does that tell you about Israel? But just wanted to go ahead and throw more shade at the Syria situation. So thanks for listening. Might have something fun for next week's episode. Catch you later.